listening to the UK and the world's favorite wrestling podcast, RTM Wrestling, with your hosts, Andy and Emma.
And it's started. Can't get my words. That's a good sign, isn't it?
It's a good start. Then it started.
It started.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's been a long day, though, hasn't it? We're doing this podcast quite late.
It feels like it's been a long day.
It's my fault that I've shoehorned in stuff before it.
It doesn't matter. But, like, oh God, I don't know what it is with me recently. I've had a few days off work, and every day I've had a snooze at some point, apart from today. And I'm feeling it.
I think it must be those hay fever tablets.
Do you reckon?
And the heat. Because it has been warm.
Yeah.
For England, it's been really fucking warm.
Yeah. This is some, like,
it's almost
Florida shit.
Too warm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like
too
I said
warm.
to you the other day, I'm now in the I'm too hot portion of the year.
Yeah.
And it directly follows I'm far too cold. Like there's not a day difference. It's like it's fucking freezing and you're in your winter coat and then suddenly chavs are walking about with the tops off.
But now don't get this twisted, people in other countries than England. When we say it's too hot, to put it in perspective, we went to Italy a few years ago now, something like that.
2019.
And it was like scorching. Absolutely scorching to the point where like
you got burnt.
I always get fucking burnt. Like I got burnt and our tour guide said it was their winter.
Yeah, he was in honestly,
a jumper.
Yeah, we were in like summer clothes, like shorts, t-shirts. I was in like a summer dress. He was in jeans and a zip-up coat.
Yeah, like a zip-up sports coat.
Yeah.
Like it was totally. I nearly said, was he wearing like a turtleneck?
No, he was wearing a zip-up coat with a high neck.
Yeah,
and he was cold.
Yeah.
The guy was fucking cold, and we were sweating our tits off.
Oh, that place is the shit.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Fuck me, it was amazing.
Take me back.
Italy's the.
I feel like I'm having a bit of an Italian drink tonight. I've got me bitter lemon.
You are.
Bitter lemon and vodka, obviously.
And I am as well. A Pepsi Max. And a Lucozade.
Lucozade Sport.
Because I'm literally running on fumes. Because I feel like I'm gonna.
Well, let's get going then.
That's normally what I do on this show anyway. Though I'm kind of because literally the amount of like notes. What I nearly did before is I nearly did a tweet where I like filmed me going through the notes really quick.
Oh, okay.
And it's like 10 pages long.
Me.
And I'm just like, fucking hell, who gives a shit about any of this crap I'm about to talk about? But I do. Yeah. So therefore you do.
Dear listener.
Dear listeners. Oh god, right, let me have a mouthful of this. Let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Yeah.
Old school, Kyle. Old school. We've had a request.
Oh.
So hello everyone and welcome once again. This is RTM episode 160, if you could believe it. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all safe. Hope you're getting your vaccines. Hope you're, what was trending before? Something about masks.
Masked sheep.
Masked sheep. Hope you'll join us and becoming masked sheep. Because it's not even that bad. I've got a cool Bullet Club on. That's pretty cool. But I hope you're all well. Thanks for listening. As always, my name is Andy. And as always, I'm joined by the Pocket Rocket.
Oh my goodness, this is old school.
Gemma, but with your actual name.
Yes, not Emma anymore.
No, but it's just with a G.
Yes, but my actual name is Gemma, just for anyone who's new to the podcast. I once wrote some books. My pen name was Emma, but my real name's Gemma. And the longer and longer the time went after I'd written the books, I was thinking, why am I still using this fucking name? It's so weird, just using my own name. No,
it's because it was cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool to have a pseudonym. But yeah, I hope you're good. We've got fucking loads to talk about. Loads and loads and loads and loads. But before we do that, I know I've asked you once, but how actually are you doing? Now we've officially started the show.
Oh, okay, now we've officially started. I would say I'm very well.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I am quite well. I feel like I've had a decent day today.
Yeah?
Yeah, I started with a McDonald's breakfast, and I think any day that starts with a McDonald's breakfast, and it's just for anyone who wants to know, it's the breakfast roll with everything on it: brown sauce, hash brown, and a black coffee.
I got pancakes as well.
You got pancakes too, which look dry as fuck.
I don't
know how they go down.
Well, that's where the syrup comes in.
it's that syrup is not wet enough.
See, I don't put enough syrup on it. When I used to go with my dad used to empty his entire
Yeah, I'd have to do
syrup
that.
on it and then take mine.
Really?
Because I would only use half and just completely like douse it in
That
it.
sounds like me and you with Domino's dips, because I can literally rinse through 4 of those on one pizza, and you can be on your same half pot.
Yeah.
And I just don't
But
understand.
I feel like I'm coating it. I don't know what it is.
You know.
Yeah, I know I'm not. But Christ, what a week. And what a week just for wrestling. So there's literally, it feels like up until last night we had one news topic. Now it feels like I've got about 50.
Aren't you glad we didn't do the podcast early? Because we were going to.
Yeah,
We were going to do
we were going to do it
last. Yeah.
We were going to do it last night, and then I thought, well, you thought, I think, more than me. Like, fuck it, let's watch AEW tomorrow, and then we'll do it after AEW, because you don't know what's going to pop up there. But we actually ended up like watching about the first kind of half an hour of it, because we were up last night talking shit, as we always do, going into a weekend, and then looked at the time and it was like, fuck, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, should we get in bed? And then dumbass over here went on fucking Twitter, didn't he? Oh my god, and just had it ruined for me. But we'll get to that a little bit later. So I was like, oh, I've got to go and get the laptop now. Got to see that now. Am I glad I saw it at that particular time? I don't know. I don't know if I did. But what have we watched and what have we done this week? Well, to start with, and hopefully this will put some pep in my step, on Thursday night. So I had a bit of a snooze on Thursday. Was that my first day off? It was, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And I was like, I need to go to bed. Woke up at about 2 in the morning. Had a little look on the old Twitter and remembered that Yushin Thunder Liger was doing an online meet and greet. And I'd seen a few of these, like New Japan have been doing these online meet and greets, and they're always at like daft time, so I've never been bothered. And I had a look at the merch, and the merch is like $150 for a toy. And I was just like, I can't do this. But logged in, and it was like, saw the tweet from Chris Charlton 5 minutes away. I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to watch this. Ended up buying some at dinner.
See, I when you said online meet and greet, I thought it was something you'd have to pay for, and it would unlock like a Zoom or something, and you'd be on the fucking call with. Yeah. I didn't know it was something that anyone can just tune into.
Yeah, so I mean, there wasn't many, which I was a little bit sad about. Like at any time, I think there was about 150 watching. But the format was, Hushin was there, Chris Charlton, who's the New Japan World English commentator, who sort of lives over there and translates everything. He was doing like a signing, and like if you'd bought your stuff early, he would sign it on the stream and show the camera, and then answer one of your questions. So you'd go, oh, Mary from Tennessee has asked, what was your favourite Godzilla movie? And it was hilarious. It was so much fun. It was just, the guy just seems like super nice. It's the first time I've seen him interviewed, even though I've seen him, I've seen like the odd promo and obviously quite a few matches now, because I've gone back in the last couple of months and watched a few of like the main Super Junior title matches and things like that, which are just top for the time as well, just amazing. And the first kind of exposure to him live was NXT against Tyler Breeze, which was alright at the time, but he was such a nice guy and just dead funny, and they're just pissing themselves the whole time, and then like Chris Charlton will translate a little bit of it, and then he starts laughing because he understands English, and he's just laughing and laughing and laughing and calling himself names and or bowing to the camera like every 10 minutes. Like, it was just super funny. So I ended up getting a signed portrait thing. It was like, in total with shipping, it was like 30 quid, 32.50 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't that bad. But it is on their YouTube page, and I think it has about 4,000 views on the YouTube page. So I would recommend anybody to go and watch it. If you're even half interested in Thunder Liger's career, it doesn't go into it too much. It's probably about 70-75 minutes long. He talks for about 10 minutes about fucking Godzilla, which is fair enough, because they're all obsessed with it, aren't they? So But it was just great. It was just so much fun. And I remember, like, because that was like my first day off, and I had a bit of a kip, and I got up, and then I watched that, and I literally came straight back to bed and fell asleep. And I remember, like, thinking, God, this is great. I feel great now. Like, I feel like I've watched something really cool. You know, I've seen him signing these things for people. You could buy an action figure, which was the most expensive thing. So I think it was like a limited edition action figure. There was, like, a plush kind of bag. Do you know, like those, like, rucksack things, but they're dead small. But it was of Liger's mask.
Oh, I would have loved that.
And I was like,
shit.
it looked fucking cool. But I would never have... Imagine that if, like, you know, in August I get this bag turned up and you're like, what the fuck is that? It's like some mask for shape.
If there's if you are ever in doubt and anything to buy me, rucksack.
See,
I'm a
think
Billy Two-strap gal, mate.
You could have got probably could have got a vase in it. That's it.
Vaseline for anyone. Vaseline pot.
Oh,
I'm a huge rucksack fan. Huge rucksack.
And you know Thunder Liger's mask.
Yeah,
like, the big, like,
that's pretty cool.
It looks like what's it called, Omega Man or something. I don't think that's right actually. Mega Man, maybe. No, I'm getting all my mans mixed up. But it just looked like mega cool. It was like a cartoon version of that. So that was good. And then it was like signed portraits you can get. And they said there was about 12 left. And I was like, oh fuck it, I'll buy one of these fucking things. Because because, you know, we've been, as you do when you're in lockdown, you don't have a fuck all to do. You start talking about like dream shit that you want. So we were talking about like cinema rooms, like if we ever get a house, and like podcasting room. So I'm going to start putting steps in place now to get a cool podcast room. Yeah. Where we have some shit on the wall, like a signed photo, and it's just an A4 thing. It's nothing big, but you know, it's a shame because that signed NXT UK Royal Albert Hall thing, where it was all of British Strong Style and all of the Undisputed Era, would have been a really cool one, but it's ripped in the corner. Yeah. But we might still be able to put that in a frame, because it doesn't matter if it's a bit tight, as long as it's not like, you know, completely ripped. Do you know what I mean? What have you got there? Oh, shit. Is it like a moth or something? Oh, it's the knee foot.
But it was on my clothes. I don't want to eat in my fucking clothes. We are.
Put my hat on it.
It's under your hat. Sorry, I don't want a moth munching through my fucking clothes that I've got drying.
My new Akada t-shirt's on there as well, so I don't want any fucking holes in that bastard.
Exactly.
Yeah, you stay under there, you little shit.
Sorry about my creaky chair.
Oh, don't worry about that, darling. They know it. But yeah, it was absolutely mint, and like I really enjoyed it. I tried to go back and watch some of the others, and some of the others are a little bit more boring. Like I would say, like I started watching the Suzuki one, and he wasn't really giving much away. No. So I was like,
I think with those things, it's all down to the wrestler, because even if the questions are shit, they can. You've got to have someone who's charismatic to enjoy that, because like one word answers or nonchalant answers are just. It's like the last thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and he was super animated, and like he had. I think one of the questions was from like a 6-year-old. Oh. And he was like, "Oh, I'm doing jiu-jitsu and I want to be a wrestler." And he bought, like, obviously, you know, if the 6-year-old's got a credit card, good on him. But like, I'm sure that it's the parents bought him like a figure and a bag and a
cute,
thingy, because he was like, "Oh, he's your favourite wrestler, somebody in America." So fuck knows how that's like the coolest 6-year-old I've ever fucking known. Like, I'm 32 and I've only just really got into it. So he was like, his answer was like really long, and he was like, "Yeah, keep eating protein. You know, just do what your family tells you. Be good to your coach in jiu-jitsu. Do everything they tell you to do, and you'll be fine." And all this kind of stuff. And it was just super sweet. He was like a really nice guy, and I was laughing a lot through it, because I think Chris Charlton's a really good host of them as well. So I'm looking forward to like the next one. I think the live element of it makes a big difference as well. Like, I'm sure because I really like El Phantasmo, he did one where like I think Kozlov was the kind of the compare kind of guy, and that was in America, and he was signing stuff. But I watched that for about 5 minutes, and I was like, they're hardly fucking saying anything here, and I don't know if that's because they didn't sell that much shit.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's all relying on, and you know, Thunder Liger's going to get a lot of shit and a lot of questions, and he had stacks and stacks of papers that he just couldn't get. He couldn't get through them all.
Crazy.
But yeah, that was awesome. That was one thing I've seen. New Japan themed. I watched all the Road to Dominion shows. Title change, which we'll get to later in the title change area of the show. But that was great. Weird thing about like the Road to Dominion stuff is we've got a card now that I'll quickly run through later as well. But they're having like title matches on these Road to shows, and I just don't get why. And I understand why, because they want to probably sell a few more tickets and have it as after shows. But it is, the Road to shows are a glorified house show. They are their weekly television show type thing. But most of them aren't on TV. You'll get like 4 Road to shows on a normal like no pandemic kind of week. You'll get like 4 Road to shows where they'll do similar matches every time.
Yeah.
And maybe like, you know, progress the story like an inch.
Yeah.
In each one. So the kind of my thought process would get both of those, because there was a heavyweight tag team title match and a never open weight 6. Is that my fucking bag?
Yeah, it
You
is.
little shit. Come
Quick,
here.
get it.
Yes. That's gotta be dead.
Sorry about killing something on the podcast,
Oh,
guys,
that.
but needs must. They are just made of dust.
It's like it look like fucking John Wick, my heart now. It's got a big blood stripe down it.
Jesus Christ.
Do you want to shut that window?
Murder, yeah. I
Just
will.
in case,
I think they've
'cause-
started work on the motorway as well. I can hear a load of like
Can you?
road work, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be interrupted when I'm talking about wrestling. Yeah, so these Road to shows with title matches. So you got your tag team, heavyweight tag team title, never open weight 6-man tag team titles on these Road to shows when they should have been on the fucking Dominion, because these wrestlers are on Dominion. But in like, it must be the way they do it, and because I'm not as used to the road. I've probably gone through like maybe 3 now Road tos, and then supposed to be a pay-per-view, but then sometimes a pay-per-view gets cancelled and stuff. And the Road tos for most of the other things like Best of the Super Juniors, G1, New Japan Cup are all like cup tournament matches, so they mean something. So I think these Road to shows, when the ending pay-per-view isn't like the culmination of a tournament or something like that, maybe because they want to put more emphasis on the main events and stuff like that, or if you have too many title matches on a card, it bores people. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But you conditioned from the Western style or the American style. Is your pay-per-view, that's where all your big matches happen. Every title's on the line and all that kind of shit. Whereas it's interesting to kind of see that element of it. But they were really good. AEW Friday night, which we watched kind of a little bit last night, a little bit today, which we'll get into some points of it later. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's neither here nor there. New Japan Strong Road to Ignition show was really cool. It was kind of like a 45-minute super tight show headlined by Kojima and Carl Fredericks, who is the number 1 contender to the Strong openweight title, versus JR Kratos, Danny Limelight. Really great match. Setting something up for Kojima and Kratos. I've not seen anything of Kojima on Impact, so I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but I'm sure that's great as well. And then ROH TV, again, really cool show. LSG and Joe Keys, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, they won a Battle Royal. I have no idea who they are, but they had their match to determine who was going to get put in a rankings. LSG won that. And then an 8-man tag to finish it, which was really cool. Violence Unlimited against the Foundation. They settled Brody King versus Jay Lethal, which is going to be awesome at Best in the World, which is July 11th. And that's the only match we've got for that so far, but they've got plenty of time to do that, because I think they're starting the Survival of the Fittest thing, which I've got later on in a note as well. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've watched this week. It's been a very wrestle heavy couple of days, because I've kind of got through all that in the last couple of days. But no WWE this week. Not even NXT. Couldn't bring myself, even though I know there's a few cool stuff going on for it, but
You've got too much shit to watch, and
Yeah,
I certainly don't want to watch it.
no,
So
definitely.
whatever. It's not worth lingering on, really, is it?
No, absolutely not. So point 1 of the news this week, and we can only really start in one place. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. We'll have to do it in order, but that's what I want to start with. WWE is continuing to pare down not only their talent roster, but all the backstage roster, whatever you fucking call them. But the talent roster for this week has been Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Lana, Murphy, Ruby Riott, Santana Garrett have all been released. Strowman was last seen on May's WrestleMania Backlash show where he was in the triple threat match for the WWE title. And then Aleister Black has been off for what seems like forever. Got all these vignettes, changed the character to the Dark Father, came back, re-debuted, then on last week's show apparently wasn't on it at all.
Right.
Which doesn't make any sense. And then he's fucking out of there. So the interesting thing with Aleister Black that I saw is that the writers, or somebody leaked somewhere, because obviously, you know, they're singing like a canary, everyone in WWE at the moment, is that the writers were told 3 months ago not to pitch anything for Aleister Black. But yet they still do these vignettes within those 3 months, and they still bring him back to TV to start a feud with Big E.
Yeah.
Even though they knew they were going to let him go.
See, that part of it I find really weird.
Babe.
Well, I know.
Everything about it is fucking weird.
It's so weird. And I did just say, like, let's not talk about WWE, but I meant the live shows. I do want to talk about this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to try and keep it as upbeat as I can, though. Mm-hmm. Because, like, from my point of view, like, if I'm blatantly honest, good. Like, anybody who's relatively talented in ring needs to go. And I don't necessarily mean... like, I want everyone going to AEW, because we'll get to that a little bit later, because I've got some thoughts on that as well. But if you are a good in-ring performer, there is a hell of a lot of places you can work within the next 12 months. You know, post kind of pandemic. It's not just... WWE is not the only place where you're going to make money. You make serious money in WWE. Like, life-changing money in WWE. However, you know, you're not gonna be... badly off. You know, it's like the FTR thing. How much money do you want? So, and where do you want to go? You've literally take your pick from some of these people.
Yeah.
The dangerous aspect is if you're not a very good in-ring performer, is where the fuck are you going to go and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because you have very limited things. So before we get into like our kind of thoughts on it, I want to read this bit as well. Is that I don't know how real this is.
Okay.
But there was a text that was leaked that was sent out to the entire talent roster shortly after they spoke to the last person, whoever that may be. Which was, quotes, due to budget cuts, the following talent were released today. Braun Strowman, Lana, Buddy Murphy, Santana Garrett, Ruby Riott, Aleister Black. Signed, John Laurinaitis. The reason why I don't think that's true is because WWE never do it that way. They might send text out and stuff, but whenever you see WWE coming to terms with the release of somebody, what do? They give you their real names. I don't think that somebody can say it's true if they want to, and I could be completely wrong, but I don't think that's true because they're using their stage names, where I think in internal memos they will use their real names.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
I don't think they'll use their stage names to announce to everybody that they're released. I don't think they would do that.
It would be quite strange, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit odd. But according to all the sources, there's more to come.
Yeah, I did see that there was like a screenshot of other rumoured names, but I didn't actually click it because I figured someone was just trolling, just taking the piss.
Yeah.
But Liv Morgan was on it. It was like there was like another batch of like 4. Liv Morgan was one of them. I can't remember who else. I saw. But yeah, we're going to talk about all our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, like, it's always the thing of like, where were you when you found out? Not that it was that big of a story, but I always like, when something like this happens, you know, I was just getting to the gym and you text me in capital letters, have you seen the releases? And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I knew there was going to be more to come. When they did that first wave, I was forever refreshing Twitter because I was like, that is such a strange ragtag bunch of releases, that first one. You know, you had like the Peyton Royce and Billy Kay that was like really strange, then you had some others. And it's like, why would you just pick on, you know, like Samoa Joe and Peyton Royce and Billy Kay? Like, that's really weird. It's like, sure, there's gonna be some more big names, and I think they're staggering it so that it's not an overwhelming. And plus, staggering it means that their non-competes are staggered too, so they don't all become available come July. So it makes sense for them to stagger them, and I think that if there are more to come, I would be very surprised if we don't hear about them in a month's time or 3 weeks' time or something.
Yeah. Just banged me drink on
and
the
I'm
table.
surprised that they didn't delay. Are you having a wine gun there?
I am.
Just explain.
Little cheeky.
Oh, yellow one.
Because I'm honestly feeling like fucked.
You're really tired. Well, I'm surprised that they didn't purposefully do Billy Kay and Peyton Royce in a different wave so that they couldn't, their non-competes, because at the moment their non-competes, I would imagine, at the same time. I'm surprised out of spite they didn't do Peyton Royce first and then Billy Kay a couple, like, in that next one, so they both got a month. They've got an extra month to wait if they want to go anywhere together, because, you know, they're that petty, but obviously not. But so yeah, I like headed onto the wrestling news and I saw Braun Strowman's picture, and then like read that like Lana and, you know, Aleister Black and Ruby Riott, and I was just like, oh right, okay. And I don't know who Santana Garrett is, so I can't really comment on that poor cow who's like been waiting to debut on the main roster and just got fired.
Called up and
terrible,
fired. Absolutely
awful. But I was genuinely really surprised about Braun Strowman. Like, that one really shocked me. Aleister Black had been pissing about with, and I thought he was staying because they'd actually done this vignette thing and he seemed to be going into the Big E thing. It seemed like a really slapdash decision.
Yeah.
But, you know, just a few sort of weeks ago, you know, we were taking the piss because Braun Strowman had been in 3 matches on Raw. And it was a bit like, why is he in 3 matches when you've got other talent? Like, why is the same guy doing 3 fucking matches? It's crazy over a 3-hour show. So, and because he is such a big crowd pleaser, I was very, very shocked about him. That one was really surprising. Lana I really get now. Especially because Miro's now got a belt. And he's a bigger deal. You know, he isn't just someone who's having the piss taken out of him in AEW, who's, you know, just like a C-lister there. He's like getting up towards becoming one of the guys. And I get that. It's not fair, but I think it's a Miro-related release. Ruby Riott, I don't have a fucking clue what that's about, because they're always on. Like you said, the women's tag team divisions are non-existent. You got rid of the Iconics. You split them up so fast, even though they were so over together. And then, you know, Morgan and Ruby Riott were, you know, they were like a legit team as well. They've been together for fucking ages.
Well, the interesting thing with Ruby Riott, and this is obviously based on rag sheets and other people's like reporting and that kind of stuff, is the original plan for WrestleMania was for Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan to win night 1 and then lose in night 2. But something happened to make them change it to Natalya and Tamina. But then they didn't change the future plan, because apparently they did have a future plan, which is super shocking to me, of Natalya and Tamina winning the belts.
Right, okay.
They just decided to do that, and apparently ever since then, Ruby Riott has been like phoning it in.
Oh, okay.
And it's been, but she's been given like probably 2 or 3 minute matches. I don't know if that's the case, because I don't watch it, but it's only based on like things that I've seen. But she seems to have been phoning it in a little bit, which you know, in a company that isn't a wrestling company, why not? Because everybody's phoning it in. You telling me like, you know, you know, even the decent matches, they couldn't be a couple of times better if you just let them do what they want to do. But, you know, it's one of them, innit?
Were you surprised by Braun Strowman?
I was at first. And I still am as well, because I you know, the only reason that I can see that why he's been released, And I've got a feeling they're going to rehire him really quick. Because he seems like a company guy. And he said in interviews before that he wouldn't wrestle for anybody else other than WWE. Because WWE made him. I think he's 37, so he's not really wanting to, carry on for much longer anyway. But he had a massive contract. He had $1 million a year contract. Which for them, it isn't that high as far as top level. Because you got to remember, this guy's been in and around the main event for a long time. Mm-hmm. He beat Goldberg at WrestleMania a couple of WrestleManias ago. He's not just done jack shit. He's done some pretty big matches. He's had that run with Reigns, with Wyatt. He's done quite a lot of stuff, and he's been the guy that they tended to, give some sort of spot to. Regardless, and I've always quite liked Braun Strowman.
Me too.
Like, I thought he was pretty good, as for a big man, as good as a big man can be in my eyes. And he's just Vince's prototype. Like, that's what you would expect a Vince McMahon to be really into. And I've seen a couple of things of like, well, they've got Omos now, who's with AJ Styles. It's like, yeah, but Omos is a different character.
Yeah,
because Omos has got barely any muscle mass. He's just a really, really tall guy. Whereas Braun Strowman is tall and massive and thick as fuck. So it's a really strange one for me. I've got a feeling with Braun in 6 months' time he'll be back with them under a different contract where he's not getting paid as much. But it is all paring down. And there's only one reason why you pare down, isn't there? And you said it months ago now. It feels like it's been months ago since we first started talking about this, and they're gonna sell it. They're 100% gonna sell it.
I stand by that.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, Vince is never gonna let go of any power. And I would still be very surprised if it was a sale that didn't include Vince McMahon still running it for as long as he wants to. A bit like the UFC thing. But the UFC sold for $4 billion. So they're wanting to get more than that because they want the headlines of WWE sells for X billion dollars. Like maybe 5, 6, 7. Now, the problem that you've got with that, and before we get into like the real ins and outs of the sale, we'll go to Gaz's tweet as well, because he's tweeted about what we could come up with for potential booking for these wrestlers who got released, which I'll get to in a second. But the real sort of crux of the sale aspect of it to me is WWE. Who is the front runners to buy it? Well, it's the network that they're on. That is it NBC, or I can't remember which one it is. But the one who own Peacock, the ones who own Raw and NXT. Fox has got SmackDown. So they're giving him, through Peacock, they're giving him $1 billion over 5 years. Through, Raw and NXT, I wonder how many billions that is over 5 years. So it makes sense for them to buy it all and put SmackDown on their TV channels as well, and just pay them the $7 billion. And then if they pay them $7 billion, they've already saved themselves. Really, it's probably only going to cost them about $3 billion. Because of all the TV deals that they're paying him anyway. So they would be the ones that would get it for the best deal. But UFC was bought by a conglomerate of rich celebrities and, probably high-level kind of business investors. But the public face of it was, the high-level celebrities who were really interested in UFC. And that's why they want to put on the biggest fights, and they want to put on, and they've still got Dana White at the helm and stuff like that. You ain't going to get that with WWE because there's no wrestling entity. There's no, massively, overly rich wrestling fans who would want to buy the WWE to protect its integrity. Because, if you think it's bad now, wait until, none of them are in charge, because we've always said once Triple H gets in charge, it'll be good again. But if they all have to step out, and these guys come in and whoever buys it and puts a whole different team together, who have no experience with wrestling at all, maybe it'll get better, but I would be more inclined to think it'd get worse, and it would just become a complete content-related show where they're just spewing out content and trying to make memes and trying to, so who the fuck knows?
God knows.
But we'll talk about that in a second. So, at Game Banter on Twitter has put, I would just like to hear what you guys can think up for these wrestlers that they had nothing for. Bet you would come up with stuff in 2 minutes that would have kept them busy and selling t-shirts for literally years to come. It was harder this than I think you're giving us credit for it. I was a bit like, oh yeah, we'd come up with that on the fly, and then I thought, oh, I might as well just type a few notes out, and it was probably on it for about 15 minutes, just thinking, oh, what the fuck. The only real one I've got is Braun.
Yeah.
So with Braun, I would bring back the I'm not finished with you yet, because that was hilarious. I'd ditch the whole Thomas the Tank Engine shit.
Choo-choo.
Oh, God almighty, I would get rid of that. And I would set him up as the main challenger for Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. I know they're doing Cena Reigns, and I know Braun's been fired now, but that's what I would do. I would put him as the main challenger for Reigns at SummerSlam. All the way leading up to SummerSlam, I'd have the Usos kicking the fuck out of him. And this is in an ideal scenario. And you can replace the person who does the run out with somebody a little bit more believable if you want to. But this is what I would do. I would have him as the underdog face, even though it's really hard to do that with somebody that size. And going into SummerSlam, it's if the Usos get involved, it's a disqualification and Reigns loses the belt. Then something happens to the ref, the Usos get involved, out comes The Rock. The Rock hits the ring, clears the Usos, power slam, 1, 2, 3, Braun's your new champion. He can then start going into programs with anybody, and then Reigns is free for The Rock at WrestleMania. Now, you can do that with anything, because whatever Reigns is doing, because Reigns is their top guy, whether he's a heel or he's a face, it doesn't matter. But they need to put in a program for Reigns that is going to be worthy of Reigns in their eyes. So if it's a returning superstar, that superstar needs to return at SummerSlam, in my opinion, and get the ball rolling. Don't need to be there every week. The Rock could just not turn up again till WrestleMania, but just tease it and stuff like that. But that's what I would do at this particular second. But that's just me. But replace The Rock with whoever you want. If it was like an Edge return, and then he costs Reigns, and then Edge and Reigns have a couple of pay-per-views back and forth while we're waiting. There's a couple of transitional challenges for Strowman until Roman Reigns wants to come back or whatever the fuck. But that's what I'd do with him. And that's really all I've got as far as definitive. Everything else is kind of like just booking a better show.
Yeah.
Like, Aleister Black wouldn't have took his old theme off him, wouldn't have took his old gimmick off him, even though this Dark Father thing was relatively interesting. I'd have him winning a belt at SummerSlam, probably Intercontinental, and just having him having shit-hot matches. Buddy Murphy in a similar way. Look at the...
Keep forgetting about Buddy Murphy,
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, because he's a really good worker.
Yeah, he is good.
And I remember that first... I think he wasn't he the first Cruiserweight champion?
Oh, I don't know.
And I think he won that belt in Australia, like the first
okay.
time. Or maybe it wasn't the first time, because it was the tournament was the first Cruiserweight champion, wasn't it? So I think that was like TJP or something. But I remember him winning it on an Australian show. I'm sure he did, like a super show. And the match was awesome. And Murphy can have really great fucking matches. And look at the main event people. Like if Ricochet and Ali are not like worried for being cut, they fucking should be. Because they're on main event having 2 out of 3 falls matches. Put Murphy in that bracket, but have it on Raw. Like, why you've got a 3-hour-long show there? Why aren't you having a wrestling match? Because, from that Observer thing a couple of weeks ago, when Lance Storm was like timing it, a 3-hour-long Raw and 25% of it was wrestling matches. 25%. Where the 2-hour-long Dynamite and the 2-hour-long NXT were in the 60s. It's like, fuck, they're not a wrestling show. So really, in my eyes, they should stop treating it like it's a wrestling show. They should just go full out.
Yeah.
They should go full. Should just be showing clips of Miz and Mrs.
I know.
And then Miz comes out and does a segment and maybe hits a move on somebody just for just for a fucking snapshot to put on Ms. and Mrs. That's all you need. But anyway, Santana Garrett I put going back to NXT. Ruby Riott, great wrestler. Don't want to see her in WWE. Want to see her anywhere else, but she should have been in the title mix. She was in a tag team. They got fuck all female tag teams. What more do you want from that? That would be the thing. Lana's the hardest because I think in ring she ain't worth $1.
I feel the most sorry for her.
Yeah. So not worth $1 in ring, but outside the ring, she's a mega star. Like when she was with Rusev and the whole Rock thing, you know, she was like the biggest like female valet they had, and she was on the show all the time. She was talking all the time, great promos, you know, and that's mega money.
Yeah, no, I do feel really sorry for her because, you know, she's obviously been training quite a lot to become a wrestler and came in as the valet, did a fantastic job with Rusev. Like really, like it was so successful, her and Rusev. And like proper like love to. I don't think anyone despised him I just don't think they were ever proper heels because Rusev was always very funny, even though he didn't do an awful lot at the start. You know, he wasn't talking, but you know she was his mouthpiece and it worked. You know, on I don't know what I said at the time. Maybe I wasn't a big fan, but like on reflection, looking back, it was hugely successful.
Yeah.
It was very WWE, you know, the America versus, you know, the Bulgarian Brute, and it worked really well. And then she, like, dropped the Russian accent and became another generic American female there, but one that wasn't a wrestler. So it's like, right, okay, well, now what? So she's been training and training. So who was her tag team partner?
Tamina. Was it not Tamina? Naomi, I think.
Right, okay. Yeah. So, like, you know, she's obviously trying very hard. You know, whenever, like, she'd pop up on our Twitter time, like, someone had liked something, she'd be like, oh, I'm off training again, working really hard, da-da-da-da. And her coming out of the company, you know, it's highly unlikely she's going to get hired as a wrestler somewhere. So, the only thing I can think of, if she was to remain in wrestling, which I don't think she will, I think maybe she'll try to do something reality-wise or Instagram or maybe go back into acting. But the only thing I can see her doing is being a valet for somebody because she was very good at it.
And there is a place for that. Like, there isn't just, you know, like what Jericho was quoted fucking years ago or whatever it was saying, I just liked it when women were valets. Like, you know... That if somebody can't wrestle but is massively charismatic, then they should be a valet. And the same if they're a dude. Like it doesn't, you know, it doesn't because she's a woman doesn't mean to say that she can only be a valet. If she wants to have a couple of wrestling matches, whatever. But her wrestling ability is so poor, like to the point where she's trying still really hard. And I watched the, you know, highlights of something like a couple of weeks ago where she was mistiming shit, and that was highlights that they were showing. Yes. They could have edited, and she's having like 2-minute matches. She's getting put through table after table after table, you know. So they'd fucked her over really.
Well, it would have been interesting to know how a live crowd would have responded to that storyline of her going through the tables.
Yeah. To
see whether or not she ended up becoming a bit of a super face because of it, you know, the underdog face. Yeah. Whether or not by the time it came round to her and Nia Jax, you know, before Nia Jax had the My Whole thing, which would not have been a thing if there would have been a crowd there, because the crowd wouldn't have heard her.
And she wouldn't have said it if there was a crowd there.
Yeah, but like...
Fucking dick.
But like, I would have been interested to know whether or not that got Lana over. But we don't know. We don't know anything. Like, over the last 12 months... We don't know who would have been like the most over or what would have really hit with the audience.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a shame because it's a bit like, well, you know, like people like Lana and maybe Ruby Riott, you know, everyone who they've let go.
Yeah.
It's like the everything's just been a losing battle because you might as well have sacked them a year ago because you've not, like, it didn't matter what they did. No. There was no crowd validation for it. You know, there was... I don't know how closely they look at social media, but like there's a lot of people who talk about WWE wrestlers. So I'm sure like there was quite a lot of action going on social wise, because that was the only way that fans could really get together and sort of chat about it. And but yeah, I just found that I just think it's a shame. I just think it's a real shame, because it didn't matter what Lana did in that 12 months, because it was futile.
Yeah.
Completely futile. And I'm not saying they did their best with her, because I don't, because I think they booked her terribly, as they book everybody. Yep. But like, she had opportunities, but I just think that the wrong people were deciding if she was a star or not. You know, the piped in crowd. You know, the real crowd should have decided whether that was working. When you actually taking a chance and you're trying something, which they clearly were with Lana. Yeah. You know, you can't judge it on a fucking no humans there. I don't know. I
think you're totally right.
But I don't know what on earth that woman's going to do now.
I think for money wise, she'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think she'll do, you know, her Instagram things again. This is the interesting point, and like just before I get to that, I thought you said something really interesting before of how they seem to be staggering these releases to the point where not everybody can turn up somewhere at once. But in that side of it, which I'll get into a little bit more later because of kind of what the news coming out of Dynamite last night, is AEW can't take everybody.
No.
And it's getting to the point now where I think they're massively overinflated. I think the show is massively overinflated with people. And it's great to have all this abundance of talent, but they've not got that much TV time. Right now, TV time, they've got 2 hours. WWE had 7 hours of TV time, and they didn't do anything with anybody. Like the 2 main shows, they had 5, and they didn't do anything with anybody. And it felt like you were seeing the same people over and over again. Now, Dynamite's criticism is they have fucking 100 people on each show, like loads of people doing run-outs and all that kind of shit, which I think is a valid criticism, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it at the moment. But they can't keep signing everybody. So, which makes me think that the next round of releases are going to be even bigger stars, because they're going to do it in stages. Yeah. So AEW will take what they think the best are of the ones that they've released, and then by the time, you know, loads of people have signed with them, like a Mark Henry, a Big Show, a Christian Cage, and an Andrade now, then they'll release your Kevin Owenses and your Sami Zayns, because they can't take everyone. So then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn might not be able to get on AEW. They might have to go somewhere else. Yeah. So, and it says that. It also says to me, with the Lana release, is that they are not even slightly worried about AEW now. They were before. So the whole Braun Strowman thing is he held out for a contract, and that's why he got that max contract or whatever, that huge contract, because everybody got a huge contract when AEW started to stop people from jumping. Now they're starting to release some of these people with these massive contracts because of AEW. That's the only reason why they've got these huge contracts. So now they're starting to release them. They don't think they're a threat at all, or they don't care because they're selling. So to me, Lana, when the whole like third party shit came out, and it was like, right, WWE are going to stop superstars using things like Instagram and OnlyFans and all that kind of stuff to make additional revenue. Lana was the most profitable person in WWE. She was making like nearly 600 grand a year just off Instagram. Yeah. So she's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Money-wise, she's going to be absolutely fine. And she'll be able to spend more time with Miro, and she'll probably have a great couple of years and then decide what she wants to do next. Who knows? Just chill out for a bit. They should all chill out for a bit. They shouldn't take the first contract that gets offered them.
Totally
they should just chill the fuck out. Because they obviously don't care, because it's very easy now for Lana to turn up on Dynamite as Miro's manager. And because she is the highest paid Instagram star for them before, out of everybody, before they changed that third party thing, and she's been on TV like near enough every week, you'd think to yourself, the last place you want her turning up in is AEW, so we've got to keep her even if we don't do anything with her.
Yeah.
So they obviously don't care.
No. I think they're just focused on a sale.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Because a year ago, they wouldn't have even contemplated that. And people like Andrade and Miro asked for their releases publicly.
Yeah.
And then got them. So now that they've started releasing people, and I think the people that they've released have been quite strategic. You know, they know some of them are a little bit older, or they haven't really done anything with them. Because Alistair Black is awesome. And I tweeted out, which got one of the best responses we've had in a while, Tommy End for the G1 anyone. And loads of people kind of responded going, yeah, that'd be fucking cool for the G1 for Japan. But if Tommy End turns up on AEW, the viewing figures don't change. If Andrade turns up on AEW, the viewing figures don't change, I don't think. Because what's really pissed me off is people going on about like, oh, he's going to be the biggest Latino star for them. I'm like, hello, they've had the Lucha Bros for fucking years now. And I would say Rey Fenix is the fucking coolest wrestler, regardless of race. The coolest wrestler there is at the moment. So I'm sure they were like, excuse me.
Yeah.
But he's a big deal. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a big deal. But is he going to change your ratings? Who knows? Probably not. Probably not going to change your ratings. Mark Henry won't change the ratings. Big Show won't change the ratings.
I think, like, we are at a point, though, where not a lot of people do.
No.
Like, really. I don't think people do bring the rate. There's, like, maybe a handful.
Yeah,
if that.
Yeah. I think if John Cena turned up on AEW, they'd get a bump in ratings.
Yeah, maybe.
For the first couple of weeks. Because it would be like, holy shit, John Cena's in a different company. If CM Punk turned up, I think that would boost it a little bit. You know, if they signed like a major name from the last like 5 or 10 years, I think it would. And they were getting to that point because, you know, all the signings that you make, you know, maybe they all add about 10,000 each. And then you get to a point where you are doing 1.1, 1.2 million a week. But, you know, they did the Friday night. The Friday night was the worst rating they've ever had. It was 500,000, if that. I think just over that, actually. So, one, they can't take anybody. And two, I don't think WWE give a shit about AEW anymore.
No, I think they did, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think now the focus is the sale.
Yeah.
And that's a long, lengthy, complicated process. You know, the due diligence and all that shit. Like, it's a really long process. So it makes, whereas they seem to have like AEW in their sights quite like obviously and publicly. Now that doesn't seem to be a problem, and
No.
it does all lend itself to the sale. Because if you're preparing your company for a sale, you're not thinking about petty fucking rivalries with a company that doesn't draw as many viewers as you. Yeah. You're just not thinking about it because you're solely focused on, let's get that price up so that it sells for more than the UFC did. It's like you said, so they can get the huge headline. Vince McMahon can get his, you know, another fucking Forbes or a Time magazine cover off of the back of it. You know, it's that shit. That's the end goal for someone like Vince.
Absolutely.
Like, he wants to set a record probably for he will, because he's the only sports entertainment company.
Yeah.
So he can't set a record in anything else. He set his own record. But I think that that's the focus, and I think that's the aim, and it's about cash now, and it's about like conserving your cash, and the fact that they are letting some of those wrestlers go. Yeah. It just shows how important money is right now.
Totally, and that's the paring down side of it. But they're not, because like Lana, for me, if I was in WWE and we were using her as much as we were, there's not a chance in hell I would release her from a contract, even if she asked for it, if she begged for it. But no, because I know exactly where you're going. And that really, if you're going to talk about potential viewership changes, that might be. Because I think AEW is going to sign Braun Strowman? No, I don't. Because Braun Strowman does not fit in with what they do. In ring, he's not fantastic. He's great for WWE in that mould. But I think outside of WWE, if he's not called Braun Strowman, like, who the fuck cares?
I think you're right about the whole rehiring. Because if you're getting ready to sell a business and you're like dumping assets left, right, and centre, the party line is, you'll be rehired once the sale goes through. Maybe not to Braun, you would never say that to him, but the line is, for a lot of these people, it's like, as soon as the sale's complete, people can be rehired again. But right now, we have to look as profitable as possible for this period of time. When the sale goes through, we have to. But after that, it's a free-for-all again, and we can start signing loads of talent. And maybe that's the plan. Maybe the plan is they do the sale, and then they want to start having some like debuts back and start drumming up a bit of excitement because they've re-signed Braun, and you're getting all these returns, these really satisfying returns. So, you know, it might all be part of a master plan, who knows?
And I'm sure it is, because those fuckers have been dropping stock for years.
Yeah,
Vince and Steph and Triple H have all been dropping stock, you know, but they've still got the majority control, so they'll get the big sale. But to me, out of this set of there's the three that are the most confusing are Braun, Lana and Aleister Black, because Aleister Black is probably the most confusing because they've put so much effort into those vignettes and him coming back. But Braun Strowman is confusing because WWE can use somebody like that.
Yeah, he's like he's a big deal, like you said though, for them.
Yeah. So that's why I think he's going to go back within a couple of months, maybe even before the sale, but just on a cheaper contract, with the view of going to a larger contract if the sale goes through. But for me, the strangest one is Lana, because Lana can just jump, and I saw a really funny like GIF or something. I can't remember what it was, whether it was just like a picture or what of because like Lana, they've been doing loads where she's been going through tables and all that kind of shit, and she can just jump to AEW because Miro's there, and it's a very easy conversation to Tony Khan saying, "I'd love to work with her again. Let's get her in." And Tony would be like, "Yeah, of course," because he's like so excitable about everything. But when I was looking through some of the tweets about the debut, and I know we've mentioned his name already, but Andrade, it was like, Andrade turns up on AEW as he, and then the meme was just like Bubba Ray Dudley's face, and it was just like, Nia, get the tables for Charlotte. It's like they're just going to start ragging on Charlotte now, because she didn't tweet directly about it, but and that was the thing that I clicked into. Like I saw on the timeline that somebody had retweeted her like crying faces, and I was like, oh shit, what's happened there? And like sort of just clicked on it, and there was loads of gifs of him walking through, and I was like, oh, and when we were getting in bed and I was like, oh fuck, I've just ruined it for myself.
I know.
It's like, you stupid dick.
I am very surprised that he has got like actually signed with them.
That is he's had the All Elite treatment. Yeah.
I know it's in your news. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. It's a couple away, I think. Okay. Properly. So a little quick one for after this, because the story won't go away. So WWE President and Chief Revenue Officer Nick Khan was not the first one in the company to bring up possibly working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was reported last week that Khan had been in talks with New Japan about a possibility of them becoming their official and exclusive American partner for the Japanese organisation, which the talks were going on since late March. It was believed that Daniel Bryan was the big topic of those discussions. Now Daniel Bryan is not on the table. So he's disappeared from the conversations, which means I think that he ain't re-signing with WWE.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I think, but who knows? But in an update recently, it wasn't Khan's idea, but somebody said to Vince, get Nick Khan to sort the deal out, because he's Mr. Deal Man for him. So the interesting part of this that I thought that I didn't know about was that, and obviously you heard of them wanting to do things like NXT Japan, NXT Mexico, NXT Canada, NXT Germany. They tried to sell as the buy as the pandemic hit. They tried to buy Pro Wrestling Noah, Stardom, Big Japan, Dragon Gate, and AAA. AAA do stadium shows, motherfucker. You're going to turn that into NXT Mexico, really? Stardom do arena shows. They're linked with New Japan. Of course, they all told them to fuck off. Now, with the way the pandemic's been, who knows what financial state these companies are in. So if they went back to them and was like, oh, we'll buy you for $2 million, and they go, fuck it, let's go, then maybe they would do. But that's the same thing. They buy these companies, gut them, and have them become NXT wherever the fuck they are in the world.
Yeah.
So the interesting part with this is that now it's come out that the majority of the deal is to do with NXT. So you wouldn't be getting like your Okadas, your Naitos, your Tanahashis, your Ibushis. You ain't going to be getting them. You're going to be getting excursion talent, which is a really great idea. Like to have excursion talent go into NXT, doing their excursion and then going back. It's, in my opinion, it's great for them. It's not great for me personally as a fan because I would never see them because I won't watch it. But you know, right now their excursion talent is getting New Japan Strong stuff in America. They're getting, you know, undercard, you know, Road 2 shows and things like that, and even Tokyo Dome shows as like a young boys match. So they're not being able to do what they were doing with ROH and with Rev Pro in the UK. So NXT is a really interesting proposition for that excursion talent, but it's the exclusive thing. And I know we were saying before about, like, you know, Lana getting released and they don't really care about AEW anymore, but the main reason why they're trying to do this, and maybe in the last couple of weeks, the reason why the attitude's changed towards maybe it's just an NXT thing for the excursion talent, is because they've pulled back and gone, we don't care about AEW anymore because we're going to sell this shit. But March might have been a different story when they were trying to just fuck with them and stop them from, you know, the second and the third biggest company, or arguably second, third, fourth, and fifth, all getting together.
Yeah.
You know, and again, even with all those put together, you're nowhere near WWE. But all those put together, you are quite a large company. So, not saying that would ever happen because, you know, all the Forbidden Door shit has all been overblown and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I just thought it was really interesting how that's kind of changed its tune a little bit since Double or Nothing. Nah, I mean.
Nah, you mean.
My cheeks are killing.
What, from chatting?
Yeah, I'm just super like tired as well. But I'm really enjoying this.
Good. Well, if you need to take a break, we can always pick it back up tomorrow.
Oh, fuck that, because tomorrow's going to be an even crazier day. Point 3 then, so AEW early pay-per-view buy estimates. So at most we've got 135 to 150,000, which would make it the best-selling pay-per-view in AEW's history. But more than likely, it's going to be around 200,000 buys, which is going to make it the second biggest pay-per-view in AEW's history. So slightly down from the Revolution pay-per-view, which was the last one, which was Bombgate. Interesting how people say I'm never going to fucking buy an AEW pay-per-view again, and it does like 5,000 less buys. And then now, if you know, they're going to have 3 pay-per-views in a row that have got over 100,000 buys. 100,000 for the first one. I saw like a metric graph and it was like 100,000, then like 60, then 70, then 80, then like back down to 60, then 100, 125, you know. So obviously since the last 3, they've really spiked in popularity where they're getting more consistently over that. But I thought that was dead interesting. So let's get to Andrade, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. So
Andrade arrived on AEW on Friday night's Double or Nothing Fallout edition of Dynamite. And we've got @Axel_Chambers, but Andrade is a great get. Just like Aleister Black, he has great matches, plus rivalries in NXT. I think Jungle Boy's my new favourite. Up there with the Hangman. Pay-per-view crowd reaction to his intro was Grado-like. I clearly like a good entrance. So much depth in AEW, bring on Rampage. And he also put about like potentially Grado signing, and you know Tony Khan would get that checkbook out for Madonna. You know that. Have you got, is it full?
No, is there any there?
I don't. Oh yeah, there is actually. Some vapey juice.
Fake juice.
There you go.
Yes, I agree with Axel there. They would get the checkbook out, and so they should.
Oh, if that happened, I would probably do a little shit.
Me too.
@Real Kyle Masters said, in capital letters, AEW is the best. AEW is number 1. I'm guessing by the claps. Andrade showing up and seeing the All Elite graphic is the chef's kiss. Can't wait for All Out. I feel like it's going to be a black weekend. And I just returned with a little gif of Alistair doing his like springboard, sitting in the middle of the ring shit. Quick one on Black. I don't think they're taking him.
No.
The reason why I don't think they're taking him is because they're heavily subscribed, which is actually I basically just started when I was going. But would I like to see it? Of course I would. But as Mark Henry and Tony Schiavone were talking in the ring on the show last night, Vicky Guerrero came in and kicked them both out the ring. She then introduced the debut Andrade, well, you could say introduced, who was going by the name Andrade L, and I hope I'm not saying this wrong, like JR, but I'm sure we're both going to learn it, Jim. Andrade El Idolo? It's like idol, but...
I don't know how you say it.
Yeah,
I need to hear it a couple of times.
Yeah, I butchered it, and
on
I was going to do that before, and I completely forgot. He cut a short promo where he said that he used to say he was the face of Latinos, but today he's saying he's the new face of All Elite Wrestling. AEW then later confirmed with that All Elite graphic that he'd officially signed with the company, but can still do AAA.
Yeah,
which I think is the main point. So, the main question I have for you, Jen,
I love it when you have a question.
The main question I have for you is... It's very easy for us to say this is great. It's very easy for me to mark out and go, yes, match of the year guy. Talking match of the year with Johnny Gargano. When you first turned up, what did you say?
I said he's got star. He's got it. He's got the it factor. Even when he had that fucking mad feather in his hat.
Absolutely. So my main question to you, Jem, is, does it matter?
Signing him.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, does it matter?
I actually do think it matters, to be honest. And I do, and I know it seems not, perhaps, but I do think he actually brings something quite different to the table compared to what they've got. There is something about that character, you know, now that it's, you know, like, because obviously WWE honed it, like, to the point where they weren't, you know, being a bit racially
insensitive.
Yeah, insensitive about how his look and all that shit. He looked like a bit of a cartoon character.
Yeah.
You know, this character he walked in as, with the shades on, you know, the slick suit, and
yeah,
I do buy it, and I do think it fits in. And I am conscious that they are getting another show and they're going on tour. So they do need to, even though it seems like they've got so many people, I do think they do need to bulk up a bit. And it's top heavy, don't get me wrong. But I don't think that's a bad thing. All I'm thinking of is WWE, where there's one fucking guy, and then there's one guy who goes against that guy. And we're used to it. We're so used to just being one top guy. And then there might be like 3 underneath that one man who are, or 5, for example. So Roman Reigns, like 5 people under Reigns. So like Randy Orton's one of them. You know, like there's people who like can go against Reigns and you go, yeah, top guy. Like that's, and then you've got your mid card, which is a little bit bigger. And you can have all these like different, you know, fucking matches and everything. And personally speaking, I am so trained as that to be the norm.
Yeah.
However, and this harks back probably to my very I've watched very, very little of this, so I could be completely talking out my arsehole. But New Japan doesn't have, to me, everyone seems to sort of share the spotlight a little bit there. And it seems to be like, I know there are top guys, but it doesn't seem, it's not got that weird pyramid structure that WWE has, and it's your favourite show, so it's something's going right, and you're a diehard wrestling fan because you watch so much wrestling, and that works for you. And it's the first time I'm seeing a load of top guys together that I know are going to get equal billing, and I'm excited to see it. It I do think there's room for everyone. You know, people might not be on the show every week. Who gives a shit? You don't need to be on the show every week. We're trained to see Roman Reigns coming out every single week as that top. He either comes out and talks on the mic at the start to set up his thing at the end, but he's always in the main fucking thing. He's always there at the end of the show. It's not a formula that has to be set in stone. It doesn't matter. And it shouldn't matter. And watching WrestleMania 1 with you, you know, like every match got the same treatment, and it was so much fun.
Yep.
Like it was, obviously there was the big main event, you know, it's Hulk Hogan and main event. I mean,
and
please.
that was like Austin Pop level.
Yeah, it was
main
huge.
Event. Those people don't come around,
Yeah,
very often.
And some people will like. I just don't think that, you know, we should think that it's like, oh well, they're running out of space. It's like, what does that even mean? We're comparing it against something, or at least I am, when I say, oh, I'm a bit concerned about their roster. It's like, what am I on about? I'm comparing them to WWE. There is room, and they will do it. And I do believe that AEW is run by someone who's very passionate about wrestling, and the fact that even with all the talent they've got, people who have been around the block and who are like talented wrestlers want to come. They'd have the same concerns if it was a problem. You know, Andrade would have that concern. He'd be like, is there space for me? Mm-hmm. So obviously the model has been laid out to Andrade of like, yeah, here's why, because we don't run it like this. We don't actually have a star. It's an ensemble cast, AEW. Yeah. There is no one guy. Kenny Omega, you could say, is that guy. And yeah, he is. But it doesn't... He's not... Sometimes he's not on the show. And that's fine. Like that. Yeah. And no one cares. Nope. He's not any less of a star because he's not been on for a week. Or he's just done a backstage thing. Like, we don't go, oh, God, wow, that show suffered because there was no Omega match at the end. It's like, Jesus. Sorry, I've just waffled for ages. But do you know what I mean?
And I was playing devil's advocate there.
Yeah.
By saying, does it matter? Here's why it absolutely fucking matters. Because Andrade is top of the food chain. Mm. We ain't talking about Aleister Black. And I'm sorry, but Aleister Black is not in the same league. You might, talent-wise and technical ability-wise, absolutely. Absolutely in the same league. And I know Black did the whole NXT title run as well. Andrade's a different beast. Aleister Black is having his character changed and, all kind of shit. When Andrade first turned up, he was wearing that white fucking outfit with a white, fedora with a feather in it, and he rocked it. Mm-hmm. That tells you everything that you need to know. And do I think they are getting a bit bulky? Yes, I do. But they are getting a new show. They've got Elevation and they've got... Dark as well, and we've seen Moxley on Dark Elevation a lot. Mm-hmm. They don't seem to care. Like Omega's been on it. They don't care what they're doing because they're contracted wrestlers.
Yeah.
They're not getting paid by the date. They're getting paid a yearly salary, and then most of them will have a lot of creative control. Now, is there going to be a time where that becomes a bit of an issue? Where you've got everybody having loads of creative control, but they're only having the creative control from their side of things. So Jericho will be in charge, like a bit like a producer, of the Inner Circle Pinnacle shit. Mm. So he'll be the producer from that, just as WWE has producers for every match. He'll be the producer for that. Cody will be the producer of anything to do with him and the Nightmare Family and the Factory going forward, because that's his own thing. Matt Hardy will be the producer of The Private Party, Butcher and Blade, that kind of stuff. Christian Cage will be the producer of anything that he's involved in. Mm-hmm. And the thing with this is, Christian Cage can turn up and talk about winning championships and things like that. But I don't think that's going to be what Christian Cage does. I don't think Christian Cage is going to be there to win belts. He's going to be there to put talent over. But to have a really good career and to be wrestling every week. But I don't necessarily... He'll get a shot at some point, but I don't think he's beating Omega. Andrade could beat Omega. Like, I'm not saying he will. I don't think he will. And at Triple Mania, I don't think he's taking that AAA title off him. But I didn't think Andrade would sign because I would have thought he would have been, a AAA guy, and he might do Dynamite a couple of times. But the fact that they've actually signed him means that, again, they've got that working relationship with AAA because the Lucha Bros are the AAA Tag Team Champions. So they're practically, talent sharing in that side. Was it Laredo Kid a couple of weeks ago who came in to do a few matches with I'm sure it was Laredo Kid. I can't remember. Maybe not. But came in and did a couple of matches with the Lucha Bros in a 6-man tag. That's an exciting thing. So Andrade could do a month and then fuck off for a month and just do what he wants to do in other companies and then come back. This is the thing that makes it a bit easier to deal with the sheer amount of people that you've got signed. Because yes, you're getting an extra hour for TV and you've got Dark and Elevation, which will keep going. They will keep going. So you practically have that 7 hours, because I think Dark is about 2.5 hours, Elevation's about 2.5 hours, that's 5. Then you got Dynamite 7.5, 8.5. So AEW are putting out 8.5 hours of in-ring content, because this is the difference. It's in-ring content. They're not putting out fucking hours and hours and hours of backstage promos and fucking vignettes and stupid spots. Yeah, they do have that, but 60% of the show is an in-ring product. You have Rocky Romero on Dark Elevation. You've got Red Narita from the LA Dojo there as well, which apparently, according to Nagata, because Nagata's his like mentor, was like, he thought that was awesome because it was a big set. Coming out, he had a bit of, I don't think he had pyro, but he had like his name on the big screen, and that was a completely different story than New Japan Strong, which is in, a tiny little place with a tiny little screen, and there's no fans there, and for his match there was just the wrestlers around the ring, but it's a completely different game. And it's great to get all these experiences. So I think a lot of these people are going to be like bridges to different companies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So do I think they're getting a bit overinflated? I do currently, but that's because they've not got that extra hour of TV yet, which they will be getting in a couple of weeks' time, I think.
It's August, I think.
Is that when it starts?
A couple of months.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you see, because the thing is, right now, when you look down, because the Dynamite card, for most Dynamites, you're like, fucking hell, that match. Like, they announced for next week, it's like fucking Eddie Kingston, Eddie Kingston, Penta and Pac against the Young Bucks and Cutler. Again, it's another crowd pleaser. And you're just like, fucking hell, they're doing these matches every week that are just like... And the main event as well, like, it's really interesting to track the main events over the last couple of months. Mostly it's been like Darby Allin defending the TNT title. Maybe if Miro's... Because I think, is Miro going against Evil Uno? You heard Evil Uno's response in the Casino Battle Royal. He was one of the big pops of the night out of that. And it's Miro and Evil Uno. That's going to main event the show. So every time we're watching a Dynamite, we're getting a main event of people that you don't see that often. Like, you're not getting Kenny Omega in the main event. You're not getting Mox and Kingston in the main event that often. You're getting Jungle Boy. You're getting Darby Allin. You're getting a bull rope match between Dustin Rhodes and Nick Camarado. Now, we'll bring up the bull rope a little bit later. However, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, lights out. They will pick out of that show, they'll pick the match for the main event that deserves to be in the main event. And it could be anybody. Could be fucking anybody. Like Andrade, I mean, I can't wait for Andrade Christian Cage. That's going to be fucking amazing. Because that's pure psychology. That's not... And that's the difference, the light and shade of the show. You've got Young Bucks doing mad shit, and I know they're not doing as much mad shit because they're heels. But you got all these teams doing mad shit, and you got like fucking 6-man tags all doing mad shit. Pac's fucking looking like he's got like jet packs on the bottom of his shoes because he just floats about. And then you've got a really high quality psychological wrestling match between. And I'm not saying Andrade can't do that flippy shit because he can. I'm not saying flippy shit that it's a bad thing. It's just,
I love it.
Yeah, it's my
favourite.
Yeah, Super Junior all the way. But the loading up of talent is crazy. Because imagine a Dynamite now where you've got Miro against whoever the fuck you want to put him against. You've got Jungle Boy doing something. You've got Christian Cage doing something. You've got Omega in a promo. You've got the Young Bucks in a match. You've got Moxley and Kingston. You've got Andrade. You've got Sting and Darby Allin. This is getting a bit silly now.
It's wild.
They're properly packing this shit out to the point where you telling me they can't do a fucking stadium show for Double or Nothing next year? You're out your mind. 30,000, 40,000 tickets easy right now, and that's without a New Japan partnership. That's without AEW, fucking AAA. That's without ROH, without Impact. They can do 40,000 seats now with the roster they've got right now if they build it up properly.
100%.
Orange Cassidy.
Well, yeah. The thing that the only, like, it's genuinely, when I say concern, it's not a concern. I think the only thing, here's the right way to phrase it, the only thing Tony Khan and everyone else who's involved in booking shows has to be concerned with is getting the right balance of psychology. So it doesn't matter if you've got a load of big names, it's all about the psychology of the night.
Yeah.
So it's like Orange Cassidy match is a certain psychology.
Yeah.
Jungle Boy is a super face. We're all behind him. That's a different psychology.
Everyone.
Like Andrade will bring a different bit. Miro is hilarious. Andy, that promo is so good. But he brings.
What he said?
It's like, I'd like to thank God.
I'd like to thank God for my power. And I'd also like to thank my wife for being hot.
Oh, do you know what? It makes me think he was giving her a little boost.
Yeah, definitely.
Giving her a boost because she'd had a shit week.
Do you know what? It's because he's a fucking good guy, that's why. That podcast he did, that Unrestricted podcast, he came across like a fucking sweetheart.
He's lovely.
And he was just dead happy. By the way, do you know I was reeling off all those names then?
Yeah.
Kind of missed quite a few. Inner Circle and The Pinnacle. Inner Circle have just come off the pay-per-view as the super faces to end the show.
100%.
Chris Jericho,
but
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. But that's what my I know you're gonna freak. He's gonna flip. But I do think that it doesn't matter the level of star you're getting. It really doesn't. It's all about the psychology. Like when we go and finally see an AEW show in the UK, because the UK fans are fucking off their rockers. They are wild. They're so mad. You know, like, I would argue that like the biggest pop of the night could be John Silver. You know, like,
oh, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
I forgot John Silver.
But like it's all about psychology, and that to me doesn't matter who you are or what your status is. Sting provides me a part of the show that isn't like, oh, it's the Sting segment. It's like him and Darby Allin. They provide sort of like, they're as close as you're ever going to get to sort of like the dark brooding, but it's all very grounded and human. Like it's not magic. We're not going into this, even though like Darby does those like movies before his matches, we're still not straying into like a weird, here's the magic match. It's like, but I do think that, like I say, the only thing they have to be concerned about is just getting the psychology right. And if that is the main concern, then you can hire out however many people you like.
Yeah, and the thing is with it, is they're going to have hit and misses.
Yeah.
They're going to have times, because I would say this Dynamite, and we'll get onto a reason why in a second, which we'll talk about probably in a little bit of detail, is I thought this Dynamite was one of the poorer ones. Now, however, it's still a very, very good show. You've got Red Velvet on it, who's looking more and more like a major player every time she turns up now. What they've done to Ty Conte, they've literally just gone on to Red Velvet and just done exactly the same thing, just elevated that.
Make people give a shit.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we're forgetting Britt Baker as well. We're forgetting Hikaru Shida. Like, Shida got massive, and I saw Shida as well. I was going to put it in the news story, but I didn't think I should. She commented about that commentator, and she was like, who cares?
Yeah.
I know how good I am. I'm really happy to be from Japan, so fuck him.
I'm not surprised. Best country, best place.
Yeah. God, I want to go so bad. But you've got all these people now that so they're hiring all these people who are coming in as stars. you can't deny. You can argue about the hype, but you can't deny the level of stardom of Christian Cage. You can't. You can't deny the level of a star of Sting. You can't deny, Miro to a degree. You can't deny a load of people.
Yeah.
Andrade. You just can't do it. But what happens when they come in? They don't do the WWE trick where Brock Lesnar comes back and kills everybody and just makes all your people look like shitbags and complete dweebs. What happens? Christian Cage puts Jungle Boy over and then tags with him where Jungle Boy gets the pin in the tag match. Sting teams up with Darby Allin. And I know, Sting in the cinematic match got the pin because we didn't know what he was going to be doing kind of going forward, so who knows. But Darby still had the big spots in that match, jumping out of a fucking window through a hole and all that crazy shit. But what happens at Double or Nothing? Darby does all the mad shit. Sting still gets the pin because that's his big moment.
Yeah.
But he's still putting Darby over. Darby's the one who comes out of that the strongest. Who wins at the end of Stadium Stampede 2? Sammy Guevara. It's not Jericho.
Yeah.
And it happens time and time again. Because they know they need to get these people to their level. Otherwise, it ain't going to work. And this is why it's not WCW. Because WCW was only interested in... Hogan and Nash and all them were only interested in protecting themselves.
Yeah.
And people like Jericho had gone through that, where he wasn't given the opportunities that they were.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And it feels like it's a collective.
It
and they're
really
like,
does.
right, we're going to fucking do this, and it's going to go here. And everybody's coming with us. We ain't fucking leaving anybody behind. Everybody's going to come up to this level. And if anybody signs, they need to be on this level. Because would you book Andrade now? From watching Dynamite, what segment would you drop for Andrade? Fuck knows. Like, I'd argue the bull rope match, but
Cody Rhodes.
Well, yeah. So Cody's a bit of a sticking point at the moment because he is a painful part of the show. And again,
are we going to talk about that?
No, but you can go for it.
Can I the thing with Cody Rhodes is I do think there is room for the Cody Rhodes segment of any show. I really, really do. However, I do think his spots take so much time.
Yeah.
Like, there's just the time element of it is far too long and it's far too much. And it might not be, in the grand scheme of the show, when you time all the segments, it might be fairly equal. However...
It feels like it does.
I feel like he's the only one who's not really... He's not got the memo that it's about pushing stars and not pushing yourself. And he is... he does seem to be sort of like out on his own, pushing his own... He seems to be doing the WWE thing on his own. Like
he is the anomaly.
Yeah, he is. He's doing that WWE thing of like, oh, well, I have to go over on the pay-per-view. Do you know what I mean? That sort of shit. Like, like he's got that like bullshit WWE psychology. It's like, I have to go over on the pay-per-view. You have to understand, I have to. Just because of the story and it's pro-America, da-da-da. But then, on the next show, you will get that win. And it's like, I just feel like he's the only one. It was still
a bullshit finish.
It was a bullshit finish. And I just... his segments are the only ones that feel really plonked in, and they seem to last forever, and it's probably because I'm not really enjoying them. But he is the only one who ain't got the memo about putting, building stars, because I think perhaps maybe he got really stung by WWE and he thought he was going to be a bigger deal than he was because of who his dad was. He watched his brother have like fucking mad shit happen, like in his crazy shit.
Yeah.
And he was so over.
Yeah. Goldust was massive.
So over, but Cody never got. He was always the bridesmaid and a really kind of naff one as well. Like he was really down there and obviously got fired.
Got turned into Stardust before he got fired.
And I was quite enjoying Stardust, but it was a bit shit. Like, really, it was a bit
Looking
naff.
back on it, it was naff.
Yeah. Well, it was Goldust's little spin out, wasn't it? Like, it was all to do with Goldust. So maybe there's a part of him that feels like he got denied Whereas all the other guys maybe have had their moment in the sun, and he's like, I never had my moment in the sun in WWE. So maybe he's playing, you know, he's making up for lost time.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that's right, but like, as in like it's the right thing to do. But I think it's definitely a theory in that he never did get his moment there, and he's creating it here.
Yeah, but for me, like with the Jericho rub, as you'd say, and like Christian Cage putting over Jungle Boy, Sting putting over Darby Allin, these are major stars. Cody Rhodes is not a major star. We might think he is, like going into this, we might think, oh, actually, Cody Rhodes is finally getting the chance that he deserved. However, his rub isn't the same as Chris Jericho, the first ever undisputed champion. He isn't he beat Austin Rock in the same night. It's not the same rub. Doesn't matter how old Jericho is. And the thing with it is, that's pissing me off a little bit, is he is the anomaly at the moment. So Omega and the Bucks are both heels. Mm-hmm. They put are you telling me that Orange Cassidy isn't more over after that Double or Nothing match? Of course he is. Because he got cheated out of the title, but you keep the belt on the person who should have the belt. But you elevated Pac and Orange Cassidy because but both of them had the match won. Mm-hmm. So Omega never had the match won. Omega never hit the one-winged angel. He hit a couple of V-triggers, but he very rarely wins with that anyway. You know, he won by roll-up after multiple cheating spots. That puts the faces over. I know you can talk about, like, you know, not having a clean finish and it's shit, but that's how the heel gets the face over if the heels lose him. Mm-hmm. The Young Bucks do so much in the match. And again, I'm not a massive fan of the Young Bucks, but I love watching the matches, but I'm not a massive fan of them. I think I am a fan of them. I think those as wrestlers and as people are probably, you know, don't know them as people, but I enjoy the being the elite shit. You know, I don't think all these are two pricks, but there's some disconnect with me with their in-ring antics. I think they do take it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But everything that they do, it feeds into the hot tag for the face coming back and getting the hot tag, and then again they fucking cheat or they do something that winds you up to the point where you want to see Kingston rip their fucking heads off.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Whereas Cody's the face, right? Goes into that pay-per-view with Ogogo's first ever match on first ever pay-per-view match. He's been destroying people on Dark with one punch, and he gets in there with Cody and starts having an actual wrestling match. Mm-hmm. And gets beat clean, pretty much clean, with a mad move that you've never seen Cody do before, to my knowledge. So it wasn't even with a Crossroads. So he didn't beat him with his finisher, which puts him even lower down.
Yeah.
Even though it was quite a high impact move, it was like I think it was like Homicide from LAX back in the Impact days, who's now on ROH. I think the Cop Killer or something like that, I think it was called. But it's a really impressive move. That's that kind of weird hooked backdrop type thing. But it wasn't his finisher. So he beat Ogogo with a move that wasn't his finisher. So then you get this tag match, and again, it's a bullshit finish. He's going to hit the Crossroads on QT. He gets right-handed from Ogogo, and then QT gets the pin. All the well-wish in the world to QT Marshall. I think he's really good in the ring. That guy should not ever, ever, ever have a microphone in his hand. Never. Please take that microphone off QT's hand, because as soon as he starts talking, I'm jarred out. Because he's going on about Shivani. You look shocked, Shivani. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he says something for a couple of seconds, then drops the mic and starts like cheering again. It's like it was such an odd moment, and he's had so many of those odd moments when he's got a mic in his hand where it just didn't connect. So Ogogo need to do that angle where Ogogo beats the fuck out of QT and he becomes the leader of the factory. I think that'll come at some point. But Cody lost by a bullshit finish, which again doesn't put over QT or Ogogo. And then Cody goes on Twitter in the most patronising way, in my opinion, and says, when Ogogo's wrestling gets up to speed with his punching power, we're all in trouble. It's like, that isn't putting somebody over. That's you tipping your cap to somebody you've beat, saying he's a shit wrestler. I just think anything that Cody's getting on the, and it's nowhere near as bad as this, but Cody's getting on the verge of scenerying people, where they'll come up against Cody and then they'll drop down the card after them. Because the thing is with Jericho, you could say Orange Cassidy kind of spun his wheels a little bit for a month or two afterwards, but then was in the main event of the title match of Double or Nothing. He was in one of the main events. And they used the I beat Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Because Jericho's doing his own thing. He don't give a shit. And do you think MJF's going to come out of this feud with Jericho worse off? Absolutely not.
No way.
Even if he loses in the end. Even if MJF is the one who takes the final pinfall, which I think it's gearing towards, he ain't going to come out of that worse. He's going to come out of that going for a belt, I think. That's just what I think. But we had a little bit of a weird spot on Friday night, didn't we? With Hager.
Oh, God, yeah.
So the respective members...
I'm going to have a wee if that's...
Go for it. The respective members of the Inner Circle got in the ring to do a promo. And I thought the thing with the giving away the T-shirts was hilarious. And I know it was later on with the Britt Baker shit, which was really cool as well, where like JR said, "Is this Oprah?" I thought that was great. And she just nicked all... The bad thing with the Britt Baker thing, just to quickly sidetrack, is they were official McDonald's coupons. They like tweeted that out, and McDonald's like sent like a letter saying, "There's more to come. We've got..." Why didn't they say McDonald's on air? Like, they've just given you like 1,500 free burgers, in theory, which none of those wrestlers will be touching. It's the fans. Us fans are the ones who need those burgers, motherfuckers. They're on... Christian Cage is on some like fucking quinoa diet. I should be on that, but I'm not. So send one my way. Everybody who buys a TMD T-shirt, you get a free burger with it. Awesome. Not that woman needs to sell any more T-shirts, because she's selling them. And Sheeda's T-shirt was like the best-selling item last week as well. So again, it shows the tide turning a little bit there as far as the female stars go. But yeah, so Inner Circle get in the ring, they do that thing with the free T-shirts, which was funny as fuck. Especially because of last year, because they had the winners of the Stadium Stampede match T-shirts, and they went on day one at like half price, because they were trying to sell them, and they're throwing these white T-shirts out to the crowd, and nobody wants them, because it says Stadium Stampede winners on it. Fucking hilarious. But then they come back when actually they've won the Stadium Stampede with that black T-shirt, which looks really cool. And they gave everybody in the crowd one, which I think was a really cool thing to do as well. I would have buzzed over that.
Me too.
But we get all these promos, and Santana and Ortiz like are really starting. I think it's Santana who's the one who's like really starting to become like a major voice in this, and he's doing awesome work promo wise. And he's like, I think they should be in a ditch at the I-95 or whatever it is. Great line. Jericho cuts a really impassioned promo. It was awesome. But there was a really weird point of it where Hager challenged Wardlow to an MMA fight on Dynamite in 2 weeks. What? And I feel like the crowd did exactly the same thing. They were like, what?
Yep.
Now, that is a WWE-esque move when they're trying to like do something like that. And I know Hager is a real MMA fighter. Undefeated MMA fighter. There's two ways it can go. It's either going to be a real MMA fight, which isn't good. I only need to say brawl for all to you motherfuckers, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or it's going to be a wrestling match inside an MMA cage, and it's going to look bad. There is no way out of this, in my opinion, and hopefully they prove me wrong. But there is absolutely no way out of this where they can look good. Not a chance. We all watch MMA now. We know exactly what it looks like to have an MMA fight. If you're going to have a legit MMA fight on a Dynamite, I was taking the piss out of the Diamond Mine last time, because NXT is thinking of putting MMA fights on NXT. because that diamond mine, you know, all the vignettes and stuff are filmed in an actual MMA gym that's got Jacare Souza and Mike Perry in it and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to get this faction that's going to debut. More than likely, Tessa Blanchard's a part of that as well. That's the rumour I'm seeing. But there's going to be a couple of actual MMA fighters in that faction, and they're going to have, or they want to have, MMA fights on NXT.
I just think
which
it's
is
awful.
It is the worst. I don't think they'll do that. I think they're looking into it a bit like a Raw Underground type thing. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be actual MMA fights, but they'll put a cage up and they'll have people pretending to have an actual MMA fight, which is why there's no winner in this scenario.
No.
There's no winner for me. Anyway, what do you think?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I think they should really steer clear of the MMA line. I think it's enough to know that Hager has fought in MMA to make him tougher as a wrestler. I think that's enough. I don't need those two worlds to collide, because that really is chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
You've got essentially a stunt show where people are doing choreographed stunts to fights where the main aim is to pretty much kill the person who you're going against, or break their arm, or knock them out, or... You know, it's a totally different sport. It would be the same as if Hager was like, I'm going to challenge you to a ski jumping competition. It's like, what? It seems like, oh, it's combat, so it's the same. It's not the fucking same. It's completely different. I don't need those two worlds to collide, because, you know, the reality of it is likely to be, it's going to be like a choreographed MMA looking wrestling match. But that's lame.
Yep.
Like you said, there's no winner in it. Either way, it's lame. Like, it's really lame. And I don't quite understand why they're bothering.
And Hager can't lose it because he's an undefeated MMA fighter.
Yeah, well, he won't. So what's the fucking point? Like, what is the point? I just don't understand. I hope they just forget it ever happened and that he said it.
Well, the reaction, they could easily forget it, because I've not seen anything about it. I've not seen it, because you think it would be a bigger deal, wouldn't you? You think Hager and Wardlow are going to have an MMA fight on Dynamite. You think it'd be a news story, but instead, the top news story on the rag sheets is the gender of Lacey Evans' kid. Lacey Evans' birth gender revealed. Like, who cares about that?
I know, yeah.
Wardlow and fucking Jake Hager are in storyline, are going to really fight on a fucking Dynamite. I don't know why people aren't like... I mean, maybe it's because they're like, well, they're not actually going to.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
But you still think it would be a bit more of a newsworthy thing. People would want to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I can't wait to hear what like Alvarez says about it, because like he's a jiu-jitsu guy and he does UFC for the Wrestling Observer as well. And I just for me, there's no winner in this scenario, because Hager's got to win because he's an undefeated fighter.
Yeah.
And if they put a cage up, are we going to get? Is it going to be like Blood and Guts, where they're going to have to show the crowd like fucking an hour of taped content because they can't get that cage out quick enough?
I could see it being a filmed thing.
That's not a bad shout. Yeah, like a taped thing.
They get the stunt person back in to then make it look like it's a real fight. They add sound effects where it sounds like shit's actually connecting.
Yeah.
I can see it being that.
Oh.
But that's lame. As I say,
Really
lame. There's no scenario where it works. Just keep those two worlds apart. Feel free to mention if someone's got MMA experience. In the same way, Anthony Ogogo is a boxer.